Alright, so today we're going to show you how to turn this into this. Alright, so first off, you got to take your 19mm wrench and unscrew the top cap off the top of the fork. And then there's going to be oil inside of this, so you get your drain bin and you want to pour that out. Alright, so what you're going to do next is you're going to take a 5/8 or 16mm wrench, stick it right under the white plastic piece, and then you're going to hold it and turn the spring to the right, which will push it down, exposing this nut. And then you're going to take your 19mm wrench, put it on top of the top cap, and your 17 you're going to put right on that black green nut. And then you're going to break the top cap free. Like that. Then the top cap should just spin off pretty easy from now. After you have your top cap off, go ahead and take off your flat washer, and then you can slowly turn the spring back left. Until your wrench pops out, and this white piece will fall down. That is normal. And your spring can go ahead and come right out. And then right after you take out your spring, you have this dampening rod, which is very, very bendable. So make sure you don't bend it. And after that, you're going to take your 17mm wrench again, and there's this black nut. You're going to go ahead and crack that loose and thread it off. Which then this plastic piece will come out of the fork. So now the next step is to remove this dust seal on the bottom of the fork. And you take like a super small flathead screwdriver and you can get right underneath it and start pushing it out, and then work your way around the sides of the seal all the way around, and it'll slide out like this. Then if you come over and look down inside of here, there's a small clip, and you can use that same tool. You'll see little areas of that clip that you can get a tool in to open it out, and you just take that and you work the clip out of its little spot, and it looks somewhat like this. And then after that, you can just take this and hit it against the stops, and it comes out like this. And then you can set your tube aside. All right, so now you're gonna see this little groove on this ring right here. So you're gonna take like a flathead screwdriver or a pick and just get right in to that little groove and then pry it open a little bit. And then you should be able to slide this up and off of the leg like this. And then your lower slider will slide right off this piece. And then a flat washer. Then you can work off the old dust seal. And then, sorry, that was the oil seal. And then the dust seal comes right off. Alright, so now what you're going to want to do is put some electrical tape right around these edges that are right here of this groove, because they're very sharp and they'll end up cutting your dust and oil seals. And then put a little bit of fork oil around the tape to lube things up. And then you're going to want to take your dust seal first. You're going to want to work it over the end of the fork down the tube like that. And then after that, you're going to take your main oil seal and then do the same for that, work it over the top. Like that, and scoot it down for now. And you're going to want to take the flat washer from earlier that was on top of the seal and slide it down. And then just remove the tape at that point. And then take a little bit of fork oil and lube this bit up. Now that the tape is off, you're going to take the lower slider or the smaller ring and you're going to put it on and slide it down. And then the upper slider, which is the wider ring, and you'll have to pry it open a little bit to get it over the top, and then it'll slide down and you'll hear it click into place in its groove. And then you have your new seal, washer, and both sliders installed. Okay, so now you're going to take your upper fork leg, slide it down over, and it's going to go slider, washer, and then seal. And you're just going to slide that down over, and then you're going to flip it over, go get your seal driver that you can probably make, but you can also buy them. So now that you've put your two fork legs together, you can go ahead and put on your seal driver, and then just use it as a slide hammer and hammer down the seal. And when it's all the way down, you'll notice the sound change to a higher pitched sound. And if you look in, you'll be able to see the ring groove for the clip. Alright, so now you're going to take the clip that we took off earlier, slide it over carefully over the fork leg, and by hand you should be able to compress it and get it into the lower fork leg. And then you should be able to use like a screwdriver or a pick and just push it down into its little groove and make sure it's all the way seated all the way around. And then you can take the dust seal back down, the new dust seal, and install it. Okay, so now we've added our oil, which spec for this specific fork on the yz85 is about 3.5 inches from the top of the tube to the oil level, which depends, it's adjustable, but make sure before you take your final measurement that you bleed the air out of the bottom of the fork by lifting up this rod and letting it fall back down a few times until you stop hearing like gurgling and bubbling. And then after that's done, you can take your dampening rod and put it back in. It goes right inside right here at the top of this rod. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the plastic piece, some people call it a spring bushing, and we're going to slide it on. And make sure these outcrops, these outcrops end shorter, like end faster on one side, and make sure the side that ends faster is at the top. And then we take this nut and just thread it on a little bit. Just hand tight. And then we're going to take our spring and drop it down. And a little trick with this is you can take that same wrench from earlier, the 5/8 or 16 millimeter, and try and get it right under this plastic piece. And then you can just set it on the fork tube and turn the spring to the right. And the spring will slowly turn down into the fork tube. And you're going to want to keep doing that until you can see the nut at the top of the spring, like that. Then what you're going to do is take your top cap and you're going to thread it on like so until it hits that black nut. And then you take your 19mm wrench and put it on the top of the top cap, and then your 17mm wrench, just like before, on this black nut down here at the bottom. And then you're going to want to tighten them to each other to lock the top cap in place, like so. Then you can remove these two wrenches and then slowly turn your spring back to the left until tension is relieved from the wrench. And at that point, you're ready to wipe off the spring to make sure there's no like hair on it. Mine has a little bit. And you can just pull the upper fork tube up, and then you can screw the top cap back on when that's done. And when it starts getting hard, you can take your 19mm wrench, put it on the top, and then you can go ahead and tighten that. Alright, so off camera we put all the bike back together with the forks on, and yeah, that was a tutorial on how to change fork seals on a yz85. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe.